today. Lots to talk about today, lots going on.
Yeah.
Interesting sort of gossip mongering going on around CanTrust. Kind of a common strategy on the part of issuers to generate buzz, suggesting that there's going to be a buyout when a company has suffered a terminal flaw like growing in rooms that aren't licensed. And doesn't help, I don't think, when the former president goes on and tries to blame Health Canada for that. Probably not the smartest move in the world. I think that Health Canada is feeling like, in credibility's sake point of view, their only option is to pull the license.
But do you think Health Canada's sitting there thinking, well, if we just do this random surprise visit, and this unveiled this, maybe they think that maybe we better do random visits on everybody. So everybody right now is taking down those walls, I'll tell you.
Taking down the fake walls to hide the unlicensed growers. Yeah, that's interesting. So that's going to be one of our topics of abuse, use, and speculation today. Lots of interesting scuttlebutt around that. We're seeing a huge surge in the amount of interest around the idea of the outdoor grows that have proliferated in Canada and the United States. We're going to take a look at that today. Matt Bottomley is going to be here this afternoon. He's the head of research for Canaccord Genuity in Toronto, and with a special focus and affinity for cannabis stocks. We are going to talk to Scott Patterson at 3:15, who is the chairman of Engagement Labs, and we shot Scott at his retreat up in Lake Joseph, and that was quite a fun time.
I think they're going to change the name of the lake to Lake Patterson.
Lake Patterson?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that maybe Lake Midas Letter would be a good.
Oh, well, if you had a property there, I can understand it.
True that. Especially a 10-acre property.
You know, gold's bumping back to 7-year highs.
Gold is setting new records.
Well, it's within $2 or $3, but it's right there. Like, we're getting more movement.
Well, is it the highest price it's been in a week?
Yes.
Set a new record.
A weekly record.
A weekly, intra-week, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so gold is making a move that we should not overlook because, as Ray Dalio says,
there's an article that he put out and said that it's a under-owned asset, and they're going to keep printing, and everybody's in these equities, and the equities are probably overdone. He thinks gold's going to go on a magnificent run. I don't think he's a gold bug per se. I think he's just a good. He knows what sector to be in at the right time.
So does that mean we should be buying the shit out of gold?
Well, you know, like our good friend John McMahon was just saying. I mean, at the end of the day, there's all these ETFs to compete with. So to go into a gold stock that isn't producing anything.
Yes.
I don't know.
Oh, you mean the ETFs are likely to draw more investor interest than
it's an easy way to play gold.
Companies.
Easy way to play gold.
Well, there's certainly no question as to whether they have any or not.
JNUG, which is a triple levered ETF, up from 78 to 88 today or something like that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Also today, we are going to be talking, Fraser Toms is going to be our news nurse of the day. Lucky fella. And what else is coming up? Boy, we have so much going on. We have a site visit going out to Halo Labs, our lovely sponsors' operations in California and Oregon next week. I will be coming to you somewhat live from an undisclosed location on the coast of Oregon.
Really?
I don't even know what I mean by that, so we'll just leave it there. And then we've got stuff coming. We've got another site visit lined up coming from Doima, Colombia, which is where Chiron Life Sciences has its principal growing operations. We're going to tour those facilities. And boy, what else have we got on the site visit side? You
got so much going on, you don't know what's going on first.
Oh, the other one that we're going to be going out to visit is RavenQuest Biomed. RavenQuest Biomed is a client of ours, so full disclosure on that. But RavenQuest grows with their rotary growing systems, orbital growing systems, a very space-age way There was just an article published on MidasLetter.com talking about exactly what that's all about. So we're going to send a crew out there, and that's going to be quite an interesting operation because they actually grow in a drum that rotates around the light.
Are you going to send a grand crew?
A ground crew?
Grand crew.
A grand crew. I'm going to send the top crew, not a loose screw. Would you like me to send the loose crew?
Isn't that what they refer to as a growth of wine, a crew, a grand crew?
A growth of wine.
Just, thought I'd mix it up a bit.
A growth of wine.
Crew,
Vintage.
C-R-U.
Yeah, that's an issue, yeah. A growth. Wine.
Okay, moving right along.
Anyways, let's see.
Oh, we should also mention that Bitfarms thing. That thing's all over the place. It hit 420 today, went down to 270, and I think right now it's back to 330. Flying around on big volume.
Bitfarms.
By the way, that's an Israeli-based company.
Is that?
That much I found out.
And they've got all of their Bitcoin mining operations in Quebec.
You know what? I just said it was, in the summary that I read, it said Israeli-based.
But it's in Quebec.
I'm just telling you.
Anyways, if any of our lovely viewers out there are invested in Bitfarms and you happen to have some inside intel as to why this stock is moving
what's
so
the
wildly,
float, for instance, would be a good one.
We haven't had time to look into it, and maybe one day we will, but hopefully by then Bitcoin will have crashed again and it won't be of interest to anyone. However, if we're wrong and it actually Bitcoin continues to, demonstrate some cojones fuertes, and we will want to know.
It's like walnuts.
Also, we're going to consider this question: Can a cannabis-based drug treat cannabis dependence? We mentioned this yesterday.
Yeah, that seems
using fire to fight fire. I think that's called, and just as in the case with forest fires, they use fire to fight fire, and often with great success.
Right.
So, on that sort of metaphysical, philosophical, metaphoric level, it is not out of the realm of possibility that using cannabis.
But maybe you might use the CBDs to fight
the THC addiction.
Yeah.
Or you use the dried stalk of cannabis to flagellate yourself every time you want to smoke a joint. Whoosh, whoosh. No, don't get high again! Don't get high again! You're addicted! Something like that. But
you addict.
Yeah, that's right. Bad me.
You piece of shit.
Yeah. But there's a good question.
And trust popped today again. We already talked about that.
Yeah, trust. Well, we'll talk about trust.
Okay.
Repeatedly throughout the show, and probably until we know exactly what the decision is of Health Canada. And I'm sure that Health Canada is pontificating, ruminating, debating exactly how do they deal with this. So it was interesting that there's a lot of sort of people in the industry suggesting that, we should just give these guys a pass and drive on. Others suggest that the only solution is for CanTrust to sell itself to somebody and thereby avoid having its license pulled by changing out management for somebody. So, yeah, that's a lot of interesting
I think it'll get sold. That's my gut feel.
You think it'll get bought?
And sold.
So who's going to sell it?
The sellers.
And the buyer?
Somebody else.
Who's that going to be? Who do you think could be the buyers for CanTrust? Well, I would say Canopy, Aurora, obvious first choices.
Organogram?
Tilray, Organogram.
The big ones, right?
Because Organogram is actually a very medically focused company too. CanTrust, I don't know, does Greg need more growing capacity than what he's got out there in New Brunswick? I think not.
I think we're going to take a look at this flower company too. The
Flower?
FWR. This thing has been on a
promotional roller coaster.
Well, it was $7 a month ago. Mm-hmm. It's now $4.20.
$4.20.
Yeah, this
That's
is the
what
lowest.
time it is to smoke weed.
Oh,
bring out the weed.
I got the chart. We'll look at it later.
Okay.
But I just want you to know that I got the chart system working here.
Oh,
I finally figured it out. Yeah, I figured it out.
Nice. Let's see. There's a new, the first ever cannabis cafe has been approved in West Hollywood. Now, what does that mean? That means that there is finally a place for social consumption of cannabis in a public environment. Interesting. Why? Because if that spreads, that will have the effect of catalyzing a lot more cannabis users, because you'll be standing at a bar. I've never smoked cannabis. That guy just smoked a joint. I've been watching him. Now he's laughing his head off. I want to try that. Or...
Is that how it happens?
That's how it happens. Or guy standing in a corner, quiet, saying nothing. You're watching whatever this dude is. Like, is he an axe murderer, random shooter, rapist? Oh, he's whipping out a joint. He's smoking the joint. Now he's surrounded by feminine company, and he leaves with them. I want to try that. That's for me. That's what I want. Or, you know, I think the socialization of cannabis in the public environment is one of the main missing factors in the whole recreational cannabis universe that will be the catalyzing factor that creates a lot more cannabis, I was going to say addicts, just to mess with the...
Participation.
Can
I tell you a little story about what happened to me in Miami a few years ago? So we went to a beautiful restaurant.
Is it a good story?
Yeah. Because,
is it a long story?
And I thought, here's a social way to enjoy cannabis.
Where?
So we went to a restaurant, and there was a guy there that was a bit of a... He knew his way around the what do you call those, edibles?
Oh, okay.
So he passed around and said, well, everybody have a little bit of this edible before we start our dinner, which wasn't going to come for about an hour. By the time the dinner came, everybody was laughing, joking, ha, ha, ha. Everybody's hugging each other. It was hilarious.
Really?
Especially me, because I had taken 3 times what he suggested I take.
And how was the conversation at dinner?
Hi.
Yeah,
a lot of...
No, but were you able to follow a topic from beginning to end?
Everything was funny. Everything was funny.
Oh, I'm sure. And did you eat more than you normally do?
Yes, especially because somebody else was picking up the tab.
I see. Alligator arms, Eddie Milewski strikes again. So, did the food taste better than normal?
It does.
There you go.
It does.
I wonder if we eat more when we're high because the food tastes so much better, or whether it's just like the appetite is enhanced by the cannabinoids present in the system. Good question. Anyways, we've gone a long, rambly time without the news, and here's news nurse Fraser Toms with, the news.
Here's your cannabis news for today. Halo Labs announced its inclusion in the OTC Markets Cannabis Index, which trades on the OTCQX market under the ticker symbol OTCQXMJ. The index's goal is to highlight for investors the diversity of cannabis companies that meet the financial disclosure and corporate governance standards required to trade on the OTCQX market. Companies eligible to be included on the OTCQX Cannabis Index must be traded on the exchange, be identified as having operations in the cannabis space, and meet a minimum liquidity screen. The index is rebalanced on a quarterly basis. Aurora Cannabis has been selected as the only winner of the Italian government's public tender to supply medical cannabis in Italy. The supply contract is expected to be signed in September 2019. Aurora will supply a minimum of 400 kilograms of medical cannabis over the 2-year contract, with the cannabis coming from its Canadian EU GMP certified facilities and imported to Italy through Aurora Deutschland, its wholly owned European subsidiary. CB2 Insights has been selected as exclusive research technology platform for the leading and only independent scientific body on the drugs in the UK. CB2 will work to provide evidence-based information on safety and efficacy within medical cannabis. The pilot will assess efficacy, safety, quality of life, health outcome measures, and patient-reported outcomes focusing on cannabinoid therapies. MediPharm Labs has received conditional approval from the Toronto Stock Exchange to graduate from the venture. MediPharm will list its common shares on the TSX under the symbol LABS. High Tide announced that coverage of the company has been initiated by Kimberly Hedden at Canaccord Genuity Capital Markets. Flower One Holdings announced a licensing agreement with LA-based Deuces 22. Deuces 22 is a new cannabis brand founded by 4-time NBA champion John Sally and daughter Tyla Sally. Flower One is now licensed to manufacture, distribute, and sell Deuce 22's selection of dry flower and pre-rolls in Nevada. This marks the U.S. market debut of Deuces 22. And that's your news for today.
Hey, I just wanted to point out, if you want to see what the news is at any given moment, we have launched Cannabis Daily at MidasLetter.com. It's available from the top left of the menu, and every day we publish not just the news being read by the news nurse of the day, but also we put articles, links, and charts up to all the relevant stuff that's happening. That's at Cannabis Daily at MidasLetter.com. Now, taking a look at our indexes here. This is kind of very interesting that the large cap index has fallen by 1.59% after several days of uptrend. 3 days of up, now a day of down. And all of the large caps are up, as we can see here over on the right of the Midas Letter Canadian Index, except Cureleaf added another 31 cents today to 1071 after their $850 million buyout of Grassroots. So transactions drive the market, and obviously Cureleaf is bucking the trend because it's still riding the updraft from that acquisition. Now, this is interesting in the cannabis space that the acquirers in most industries, stocks go down, while the acquirees' stocks go up. Now, Grassroots was private, so no indication there, but it's interesting to me that Cureleaf actually has added 25% to their share price on a buyout that has cost them $850 million.
Maybe because it was private, they were able to get it for a better price.
But how will we know? There's no financials.
Well, somebody
Maybe
knows.
they overpaid.
Somebody knows.
Somebody knows. Anyways,
the nose knows.
Canopy Growth is giving back 1.5% today at this point, down 72 cents to 46.97. Aurora Cannabis is giving up 5.6%, losing 55 cents, and now trading at 9.13. And Kronos Group is well down below the $20 mark, which is sort of its benchmark, at least in my mind, down 11 cents or 0.56%. In other indexes, the small cap index is down, or up rather, 5.72%. And who's driving that train? Well, TransCanada Holdings, who we have no information on really, is up 32 cents or 24.6%. Probably want to find out who they are. TCAN is the symbol. Neptune Wellness. Wow, look at that. Tacked on $1.30, up 20%. Now, Jim Hamilton, who was our regular guest, has stepped down as CEO, and it's kind of looking like whatever happened. I'm hoping that this move to the upside was as a result of some of the stuff that Jim put in play while he was there. But look at that, up 20% in a single day. On any news? Let's see. Canada Newswire closes $41 million private placement. That's not generally something that would cause a stock to rise by 20%.
Well, you know, it gives them lots of cash. Lots of cash makes the company.
Let's take a look at that press release. Perceptive Advisors. Private placement. Joe Moretz, chairman of the board, and Michael Cameron. We should get those guys on and see what they have to say. Interesting. Nothing really. I mean, that does not, in my mind, justify a 20% lift to the valuation because it's dilutive. So what the hell? What the hell, Edward? There's the Cannabis Daily page if you want to get a look at that. Bitfarms. Here's Bitfarms. So you were saying that Bitfarms.
Look at the. Well, it hit 420. But today it gave some back. It got down to 270. So that's a $1.50 range. That's a big range.
Still, in 3 days of trading. That's impressive.
Right.
And still no press releases out on that. So it's all happening behind the scenes, below the radar.
It's all happening at the zoo.
At the zoo?
Yeah.
What? Not at the farm.
Well, they bought the farm.
So can you farm Bitcoin?
That's what they say. That's why they say it's like mine. You can mine it, but you can't farm it.
Well, why is it Bitfarms then?
Because you can mine it.
I think they found a way to farm it. And that's why the stock's going up so much. It's like we can raise could you imagine raising Bitcoins in little aquariums?
Well, we should start our own currency.
Well, not a bad idea. Midas Letter lends its name to a cryptocurrency. We actually had a plan to launch a cryptocurrency.
Let's launch one.
But then I felt that I couldn't bring myself to believe in the value of a cryptocurrency, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It was like
it was too easy.
It would be like defrauding myself to pull that stunt. So obviously, if it's against the public interest and my interest, there's no way it's going to happen. If it's only against my interest but in the public interest, it can still happen. So yeah, lots is happening out here. Scott Patterson is a somewhat legendary figure on Bay Street. There's Scott water skiing behind his boat that I am driving, actually, and this was just a couple of days ago in Muskoka. Scott Patterson was the former chairman of Yorkton Securities, which at the time, during its heyday from, call it late 99 to mid 2000, was the premier technology investment bank in Canada under Scott's leadership. Scott is a serial entrepreneur and has recently turned his attention to engagement labs. And here's a conversation we had about that after, or rather before, his water skiing. Welcome back to our live series from Pat Camp on Lake Joseph in the heart of Muskoka. We're here in the backyard of Scott Patterson, who is chairman of Engagement Labs. Scott, welcome.
Thank you, James. Nice for you to be here.
Thanks. Tell me about Engagement Labs. What does it do?
Well, Engagement Labs is a company I've been behind for a number of years. We had a bit of a false start a few years ago, and then about 2.5 years ago, we really got it, we think, and we developed a product called Total Social. Incredibly unique globally. It's a technology, very proprietary, patents, millions of lines of code. And what we're able to do is tell marketers what's happening, not just online, because there are a lot of companies that are able to tell marketing companies the efficacy and the reaction to online marketing efforts, but we're able to tell them what's happening offline and the amplification of what's happening online. Sometimes they call that word of mouth. And what's interesting, in the world that we all live in, which is so inundated by everything being by our phone and everything else, but that a larger percentage of decisions are made by offline recommendations. You might get information that's online. You're checking out whatever it might be, a car, a hotel, or whatever it is. But then you'll ask your friend, you were in New York, where did you stay? You know, what airline did you take? Was that good service flying to Europe, whatever it may be? That's what Total Social does. So we've had tremendous growth. We're only focused on the Fortune 500 right now. I will apologize that I won't say company names to you, but I'm able to say things like one of the largest sports organizations in the world is a customer. One of the largest credit card companies is a customer of ours, things like that. These are customers that pay us on a SaaS basis, so software as a service. Some of them are starting at $10,000 a month. Some of them right now are $20,000 a month. Some of them are $30,000 a month. So a decent size, $250,000, $300,000 a year. Early days, but really, really encouraging.
Mm-hmm. So I guess revenue is recurring in a large percentage of the case. And what's the average lifespan of a client engagement?
It's about 2 years because it's an early new product. So a number of customers say we want to try it for a year, but we are signing 3-year contracts as well. We've had very limited churn. We did lose a large customer, which was disappointing. Frankly, their CEO and CMO were changed, and that can happen. And it's good once in a while, because we were actually having this incredible money. We get a little bit of a kick in the pants, and you redouble down your efforts. But very, very pleased that there's a few contracts that I can't mention right now. We'll be announcing shortly in various industries. What gets me excited as chairman of the board is it'd be one thing to say we've got a product that really works in one sector, financial services or beauty or healthcare or something of that nature. But it looks like this product has efficacy across industries. That's what's really exciting.
And what's the methodology for measuring offline efficacy ROI for marketers?
Well, it's huge. One large mobile company in the United States credits us with increasing their revenue by $23 million. And I think our fee or our SaaS revenue in association with that customer was $250,000 for the year. So the first thing I said to our management team, of course, is, hey, you grossly undercharged them.
Sure.
But what they showed in this particular case is that mobile company thought that they were marketing to a millennial audience. But our research showed that it was actually the millennials' parents who were making the decision about whether to buy this particular mobile product for that audience. And on the basis of that, that mobile company designed a product for the parents.
Wow.
And it took off for them. So it's this word of mouth. Now, we do 36,000 surveys per year that contribute. 36,000, imagine that, when there's only 365
so that's
days.
interviewing people.
It's a bit like Nielsen ratings, where people sign up to, confirming in the morning and in the afternoon. Did you talk about a hotel? Did you talk about a car? Did you talk about a mobile phone service? And it's a big business in the United States. Ours is considered scientifically sound. Our CEO, Ed Keller, is world-renowned as an expert in this word-of-mouth area. Steve Brown, who we brought in as president, he was former head of sales at New Line Jump TV, which I was formerly involved in. And the guys have done a fantastic job as we had to pivot the company and position it now for what we think represents many, many years of very rapid growth.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds like a ComScore almost, but with the offline component almost more effective, more holistic. So wouldn't this be something that would be kind of interest to a larger sort of multinational marketing group?
You know, I want to be very careful what I say, but it is the kind of, because it's technology and it's replicable technology, it's the kind of thing that a larger organization could plop right into their technology stack or the toolkit of their salespeople, and frankly probably grow it much faster than us. We did have the patriarch of our largest shareholder group passed away a number of months ago, and it is something the board's thinking through. What is the right outcome for this company at this point? But we, in many respects, we've got this thing that looks like it's got the horses ready to run out of the barn, but you've got employees and other constituents in this other factor, and we're constantly thinking through what we think is the right thing for shareholders.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell me a bit about the evolution of the company from an investor's perspective. The stock is at a discount to where it was. Obviously, a chairman of the company would argue that makes it cheap, and now is a good buying opportunity. So how would you categorize the opportunity now for investors considering an investment in that space?
Listen, I've been fortunate enough to have some good winners, and I've got a lot of scars on my back with things that have either been a loser or took more time, and I'm certainly in the camp of this has just taken more time, and my own strong view is this represents really compelling opportunity. And the reason is that when you go public initially with something like we did with Engagement Labs and we had a thesis, the stocks tend to have a premium associated with the probability, the call optionality of success. When it didn't work as quickly as we'd hope and we had to pivot to build Total Social, you get the opposite effect. Mm-hmm. And frankly, we stopped telling the story because we thought we've just got to hunker down, roll up our sleeves, and get this right. And that's what we've done. We've reduced the burn rate. We're still losing a little bit of money, but a lot less than we were before, showing that quarter-over-quarter growth, particularly when you just look at Total Social, and the quality of the customers. That's what gets me most excited, combined with a very limited churn rate. Well, now our market cap is... it's in the $9-10 million range. If this was a private company in Silicon Valley, I think it would trade at many times, would be worth many times what our current stock price is. But we've got to prove it. But I think you're going to see that in the next few months and quarters, and I hope that we'll see a stock price potentially many times our current stock price.
Awesome, Scott. Well, we'll keep our eye on it and come back to you soon. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, James.
Wow. Nice place up there in Muskoka, eh? Did you get up on the water skis, Ed?
Yeah, well, close.
Well,
close. I decided I was too hungry and I needed to get some food.
Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, I've noticed.
Yeah.
So CanTrust was floating the idea that a white knight is potentially sniffing around the edges to buy them ahead of the decision by Health Canada. Now, Bruce Linton told us that if it was him, he would put together a consortium of CEOs to go and talk to Health Canada and say, okay, mea culpa, we're guilty, but these guys are going to buy us and that's our way out. So that makes sense, but there's also been many cases where the idea of a suitor has been floated when none really exists in an effort to stem the selling. And I'm not saying that this is the case in CanTrust case.
But if they have, but if they have that much cash, I guess they need the cash to fight off all these suits, I guess. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, well, for me, it's it's all about where the chips are going to fall in terms of the Health Canada investigation. If Health Canada says, well, we'll let you survive, but you must sell yourself to a management team who is not so afflicted with decision making resulting in those kinds of things, or Health Canada could say, well, we're just actually sorry, we're going to have to make an example out of you and cancel your license, which would be a disaster, but they've got all that cash, so maybe that wouldn't be a disaster. Maybe they're going to say, you know what, let's go into Bitcoin. Maybe we'll just buy bit farms, so that people can trust us again. Because right now they won't trust us, and certainly the government doesn't trust us. So that's maybe, you were saying they should change the name to Can't Trust. Maybe doesn't trust or don't trust.
Will not.
Will not trust.
Won't trust.
Won't trust. Can't trust.
Yeah, it's a can of worms, to say the least. And, we've had a pretty good few days in the market, and this thing's done nothing.
Yeah.
That's also another sign,
Everybody's on Tinder hooks, waiting to wait and see what's going to happen. Quick hello to our audience here. Nika Domi, of course, is holding court, and that's great because she's going to be here starting Monday next week, and then back on Wednesday to following Thursday as co-host Polsky Ogorka with
Polska Ogorka
with Polsky Ogorki. That should be quite an entertaining week.
Maybe we'll end up doing the polka.
I might be out of a job.
Did it?
Doing the polka?
Polska, polka.
Well, that would be an interesting dance. I'm sure I'd love to see that. So one of our illustrious viewers, Mario Mateka, says, doesn't the Engagement Labs guy sound like Trump? I've never thought of that. Didn't sound like that. There's one out of left field. Hello to Ivan Black. Hello to Joseph Lee, Carl Bowden, regular participants. Great to see you all here. Mary Kemp. Hello, Mary. How are you doing today? Reefer Al is here. Hi, Reefer. How are you doing? Great to see you guys all. Thank you so much for joining us. Quick reminder to anybody who's watching and hasn't yet, the little red bell in the upper right corner is how you get to find out when we go live. And we're going to start going live from weird-ass locations at weird-ass times of day. So that's the only way you're going to know. So I highly recommend, you can ring my bell, ring my bell, my bell, my bell. So what else? What else? So all these companies have been planning outdoor cannabis.
Gold in the last 10 minutes has moved up another $10.
Wow.
It's now 1447.
1447.
I'm sorry. Did I say 1447?
You said 1447.
That's what it is.
Wow. So we should have bought some more.
Well, you know what? Look, I'm going to send you this article. I want you to read it.
Mm-hmm. You want me to read it?
Well, this guy's a smart guy. He says there's a reason why.
Ray Dalio?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's a rich guy. I don't know about smart. Rich does not actually often equate to smart.
No, but you want to sort of follow guys with money.
Yes.
In this world.
Well, I don't know. I've got a few examples of where that's been a disaster.
No, that's true too. But
Yeah, but we'll certainly take a look at what Ray's got to say, and probably he's better respected and qualified than us. So there's a lot of companies that have been announcing that they're going to be harvesting their first outdoor crop.
What's the best month in this climate to harvest, you think? Is it September?
It depends where.
First frost?
Well, you want to harvest before the first frost, because if your flowers get frosted, then you've got frosted flowers, and that's only good for cereal, which would then be called frosted flakes. Exactly. You got Tony as your... it's if you were growing in Nelson, BC, for example, where frost can come in August, you're probably going to be harvesting in August. But if you live in Victoria, BC, and you're basically going to probably be able to ride the cycle to the end of when the plant is actually perfectly mature, because frost doesn't generally arrive in Victoria, BC, ever. I mean, with some exceptions, but then again, if you live in Ontario, where we're actually going to be present at 48 North's Harvest in Ontario in August, because Ontario is a bit of a wild card. You can get frost in August, you can get frost in September, you can get no frost until October, November sometimes.
Can you get frost in August?
Yeah. In
Where?
Ontario?
Where?
Canadian Shield? Anywhere in the Canadian Shield.
Don't say Sault Ste. Marie.
Sault Ste.
No,
Marie.
I mean, of course. I mean,
Why
up
not
there
Sault
you
Ste.
can.
Marie?
Okay,
well, that's
there.
Ontario.
But not down here.
Well, no, not down here. But we're at the southernmost tip of Canada here.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we are.
Windsor is.
Well, this southern Ontario is the southernmost part of Canada.
This isn't Southern Ontario.
This isn't?
No.
Where
Southern
is it?
Ontario is south of here.
I see. Well, this isn't northern Ontario, because that's north of here.
No, this is mid Ontario.
This is the middle of nowhere. We're in the middle of nowhere. Fascinating concept. Matt Bottomley was here. He's the head of research for Canaccord Genuity with a special focus on cannabis. And we had a very fulsome conversation about the industry and where it's going. Here's that conversation. Matt Bottomley joins me now, head of equity research for Canaccord Genuity Corp. Matt, welcome back.
How you doing, James?
Great, thanks. You having a good summer?
I am, yeah.
Beautiful.
Finally came.
Okay, Matt, so lots going on in the space. What's your general overview on where the market is going on a macro basis for the next 6-12 months?
Well, I guess it depends on what markets we're talking about. I think on the Canadian side of things, we're seeing some of the more recent licensed producers, even some of them that have market-leading shares, reporting sequentially lower cannabis revenues and volumes. And a lot of that really isn't a big surprise to the analyst community, because we know there's a lot of hurdles when it comes to the infrastructure. Ontario only started opening their stores in April, so there's a long ways to go. That'll end up being probably 40% of the market in my view. So I think that the Q3, Q4, and then obviously into 2020 when new derivative products come on is really the next catalyst. But unfortunately, that sort of leaves, barring a big strategic investor or someone else coming into the space in the summer months, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of positive catalysts, which is why I think we've seen the names trade off. I believe they're, down another 10% even just this month in July so far.
Sure. So would you consider the purchase of Grassroots a sort of sector-wide positive catalyst?
Well, that's something that's a little more particular to the U.S. side of things. And one of the big overhangs for any multi-state operator or MSO is that there's been a lot of acquisitions announced this year, billion-dollar price tags in many cases or close to it. And there's no indication of when these deals might close. So I think there's a lot of worry out there as to how far the can's going to get kicked. So the announcement of another big, close to billion-dollar deal doesn't hurt, but I think what everyone's waiting for is some sort of commentary, whether it's from the DOJ or whether it's just one of these big deals that has been announced in the last 6 months finally closes. And again, the summer months, in my view, it's probably unlikely to happen. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of investors maybe be on the sidelines until maybe after Labor Day or when sort of everyone's back from vacation.
Mm-hmm. So from where you sit, what is the likelihood that there is some noise movement on the part of the federal government in the United States towards deprohibition federally?
Oh, well, that's even a longer time frame. I think we have two sort of minor or catalysts that could eventually lead down that path, although they're not specifically related to the legalization or anything like that. But we have the States Act and the Safe Banking Act. So the Safe Banking Act is just to give cannabis operators more access to just traditional operating accounts and short-term loans and potentially mortgages on real estate. Mm-hmm. Whereas the States Act is more to allow these operators to go uninfringed. And there's already some medical legislation that's in place on the federal level that protects that. But that's something that I think is absolutely going to get progress or see progress into next year. If you're asking me when it's going to become legal in the U.S., I mean, you just have to pull it out of thin air. It plausibly could be 2021, 2022, but it could be another 10 years. It's just all a function of who's in the government at that time and what the priorities are. But certainly on the state-by-state level, things are not slowing down whatsoever.
Right. The proliferation of companies focused on CBD now that there are, it's everywhere in Europe. It's on every shelf. It's being sold online legally and illegally, but you can't really tell the difference. And the sources of CBD are now becoming more uniformly large-scale outdoor hemp growing operations. Mm-hmm. Do you see that as a negative for Canadian producers who have invested in ultra high-tech, purpose-built, large-scale greenhouses, and that we're counting on the CBD industry to be part of the equation. But now, how are they going to compete with low-cost, outdoor-grown, hemp-extracted CBD?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, at least in my view, the part of that industry, hemp-derived CBD, health and wellness, the value isn't going to be accrued from having the best field, right, or even the lowest cost production. It's important input, of course, and it's what the secret sauce. But I think Bruce Linton, when he was at Canopy, he would be the first one to say, we want to be the brand and buy the ingredient as opposed to be the best hemp or whatever type of grower. So I think that international distribution and getting relationships with foreign regulators is much more important, because there's no shortage of hemp fields in Kentucky, and that's where a lot of people source it from. But certainly it's something that everyone is trying to get their arms around, but it's a lot more of a nascent it's at a lot more of a nascent stage than what I think a lot of people realize. There's been a lot of people internally at Canaccord I've talked to, and others in the industry as well, that are going and starting to kick the tires a bit. And there's a tremendous European opportunity. That's probably the next thing that I'll be focusing on. If I'm trying to forecast in the next year or two, it'll probably be the next big market that I really have to beef up my knowledge on. But it's not like there's a market right now in the UK anywhere with a very robust legalized platform where there's hundreds of millions of CBD health and wellness products going through. I believe if you include illicit channels, the market's probably well bigger than that. But right now we're in the very, very top of the first inning when it comes to that, which I think is an advantage if you're Constellation and Canopy that have $4 or $5 billion to invest globally. Even a Kronos has that. So I think the large players that have the capital and obviously have the potential infrastructure to branch out in other markets are best poised for CBD, as opposed to someone that has the best field for growing it right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the attention from investors on the retail side, you see it moving more towards what's happening in the U.S. in the near term, and then Europe on the longer term, and all of that is going to come from the Canadian investment focus, at least the investor pool on the retail side?
Well, I think there's a lot of that. I mean, it certainly has been the way the sector has been. I think that what will bring more capital into play and what will bring more investors will likely be, in my view, the multi-state operators as they continue to progress, because right now these valuations across the 10 or so major ones that I follow are down well over 40% just since the spring or early April, I suppose. And that's something where we've seen Illinois legalize recreational cannabis. We've seen some movement on the Safe Banking Act. We have more and more potential ballot initiatives for next year that are going to bring recreational cannabis online. Michigan is still, putting out new regs right now. I think they've officially done that now for their rec. So there's a lot of things to follow in the U.S. market. But again, there's just, nothing can really help these stocks right now. And I think a lot of that is people are just waiting to see, as I mentioned, what the DOJ said. And my view is the fundamentals of these stocks. If you look at a Curaleaf or a Harvest or an Acreage or someone that might boast the largest top line in the sector on I guess what is right now a pro forma basis until they close, there's going to be companies that even if you take a conservative approach that all their dispensaries are only going to do $3 million a year, there's going to be companies as a base layer are going to be doing hundreds of millions next year. And you might see Canopy do that and some other licensed producers, but you're not going to have 7 or 8 Canadian companies all doing 100 million plus anytime soon. But you're going to see that, in my view, on the MSOs. So right now, I think it's fire sale valuations. I mean, they don't even trade at a growth multiple. Like even if you put a 10 times or 12 times multiple for consumer goods, or the fact that there's barriers to entry, maybe discount it because yes, it is cannabis and it's federally illegal. They trade at that level or below. So I think that buying these names over the summer months, and obviously there could be more downside given my previous comments that I don't really see many near-term catalysts in the next 60 days, let's say. I still think that as soon as the first deal closes within this MSO group, it's going to be game on in terms of capital coming back into the space.
Sure. So the current downturn generally in the space, the summer doldrums as it were, is actually an opportunity for astute investors who understand that this is the time to position yourself.
No, I think particularly for these U.S. names, because as I mentioned, at some point in the next couple of quarters, the fundamentals of these U.S. companies are going to justify current trading levels. Whereas the Canadian companies, a lot of it's more sentiment, right? They all trade on the major U.S. exchanges. There's a lot of retail capital that pulls in. I still think the winners of the space, whether it's Canopy and some of the bigger names, Aurora, I think the winners of the space are going to have much higher valuations 3 or 4 years from now as they actually get to crystallize some of the opportunities internationally. But the Canadian names could just easily take a 50% haircut because the fundamentals are much longer and it's just really driven by retail sentiment for the most part. So there's a lot more downside risk risk on those names, even though they're on major exchanges. Whereas the MSOs, there's a lot more near-term risk. I don't know where the bottom is here. No one does. And they're down 40%. But I believe through the fundamentals of some of the larger MSOs, and as well as a positive DOJ announcement, I think it could really trigger the sector for a significant leg up, hopefully in sometime this year.
And what's your expectation on the effect of the balance sheets of the Canadian companies as a result of the introduction of the edibles and the beverages?
Well, what we're seeing on a lot of the balance sheets now is a bit of a spike in the concentrate inventory and finished goods inventory, and that's a good thing because, if you talk to any licensed producer who says we're going to be the leader in edibles, and you look and you see they have $1 million on their balance sheet, plus the tendering process has to go right now for those products. My understanding is it will be legal. The regulations will legalize it October 17th, but the first sale won't be for 60 days after that. So just all the lead times, you really have to have the inventory now to do it. So I think, there's Organigram's probably one of the best companies. Of course, Canopy and some of the bigger ones that have, the large cash balances, I'm sure will have no problem competing. But I think Organigram's probably the best situated right now in sort of the $10 billion plus club. They got a very modest valuation given where they are positioned in the sector. And there's others, of course, too. But Cannabis 2.0, as everyone's calling it, is going to be the next leg of competition. I mean, we saw some negative headlines with CanTrust, and they've fallen out of favor and have a bit of a stop sell right now on their products. We've seen Organigram sort of over-execute, in my view. Canopy, although is a ways away from profitability, clearly has the lion's share of the market right now, at least in relative to their peer group. So a lot of things to track, and now as an analyst, we're going to have to be retracking that all over again come December, January, when these products start hitting the shelves.
You bet. Matt, as usual, a great conversation, and thanks for your input.
Back to Organigram.
Yeah.
They say this is a well-run company, and
yeah,
they're doing the thing. So
Organigram is when the sector is down, it tends to run contrary to the trend and go up, and when the sector is up, it tends to outperform the sector and go up even stronger.
Yeah.
So Greg's doing something right. That's why we're going to do our next backyard barbecue segment from his backyard. We think we're in contact with him, and we'll let you know how that goes. But let's take a quick look at how Organigram is doing today. OGI, there's the symbol. Come on.
Is it OG or OGI?
OGI. There it is. So it's down today. So I stand corrected.
Well, there you go.
It generally bucks the trend. Today it's emulating the trend. But still with a market cap of 1.3 billion at least.
Down a little bit.
You know what has been driving the stock lately is they announced their Q3 results on July 15th while we were gallivanting up in Muskoka. Greg was busy putting out results, and just to reiterate, Q3 and year-to-date results showed net revenue of $24.8 million and $64.1 million for year-to-date in this year. Net loss and net income from continuing operations was $10.2 million and $12.9 million to the upside. Yeah. Unless I'm reading that wrong, which is quite possible.
Yeah.
But that's really strangely worded. Significant growth expected for fiscal 2020 as edibles and derivative products legalize. The number of cannabis stores, retail stores to expand. That's interesting because as Matt Bottomley was saying, that he expects that the edibles are going to add a great deal of oomph to the balance sheets and the income statements of these publicly traded issuers, but not till 2020. So really, 2020, I think, is the make or break year for a lot of these companies. Like if they don't start showing some serious profit,
right,
some serious EBITDA at the very least, that they're going to start to suffer a discount. What do you think?
Yeah, well, look at you know what, money makes money. I mean, ultimately, it's about cash flow. In the beginning, when you have a discovery in mining, the stock moves up, but if it can't get it put in production, nobody cares.
SOL. Our sponsor is Halo Labs. You can see their little logo. I'm going to do it wrong again right there. Halo Labs at halocana.com is a US-based producer of vape products and extracts. They're 20%.
We should be wearing our halos.
20% of the.
I don't know. Why do you tell us to take them off?
If you tried to put on a halo, it would shatter into a million pieces, and you'd get struck by lightning. Anyway, so halo is these 20% of the wholesale market in the state of California. That's huge. They're also cultivating cannabis for feedstock in Oregon, and they also have extraction operations in California. And they're also active in Nevada, and soon they are probably going to close a transaction with a large grower, the largest grower in Lesotho, which has been attracting a lot of LPs. So they've got a project with 100,000 acres under permission, which is that's a big project. Or is it 100,000 square feet?
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. The unit of measurement is important when you're giving statistics. Did you know that, Ed? Like the difference between an acre and a square foot is quite substantial.
Yeah, I think it's important to know what dimensions. Like if I got a million what?
Hey, but this is the thing. Don't listen to your local idiotic talking head. Go do your own due diligence. Duh. But yeah. Anyways, but that's interesting. So among the outdoor growers, we're going to go see our good friend Allison Gordon at 48 North as she gets ready to harvest in August. Our friends at WeedMD are theoretically going to be harvesting some marijuana in the last quarter of this year.
Yes.
Last quarter? No, that would be incorrect. That would be third quarter. Alifi has got some crops growing somewhere. And Aurora's got some land but no crops, because I think Aurora said, you know what, it's a little late this year to get going on outdoor cannabis, so let's defer. Because really, if you plant cannabis in July, what are you going to get come September? If it lasts that long, if you can let it grow that long.
What do you need? What do you need if you grow it in, say, the spring here? Is it a 4-month growing cycle, regardless if it's indoors or outdoors? 3 to 4 months.
Well, that's an interesting question. If you're going to grow it outdoors, cannabis is phytotropic. In other words, the light, hours of light in the day, determine at what stage it wants to be in. So as soon as the days start to get shorter, that signals to the cannabis plant, oh, growing is over, it's time to flower. So from that moment forward, it flowers. And depending on what strain or species you're growing, it can be anywhere from 8 weeks to completion to 12 weeks, or even a little longer, to completion. So cannabis plants growing outdoors are going to start to flip into flower starting on June 21st, but it actually takes them a few weeks to get there. But by August, they're well and truly into flower, and they're on that 8 to 12 week cycle. So obviously, if a plant starts flowering August 1st and it's an 8-week grow, then you're looking at the end of September before it's done. So what are you going to do in Canada if you're getting frost in September? You're going to have to harvest early, and you're not going to get the level of THC, CBD, and you're not going to get the amount of biomass that you would if it was allowed to run its full course.
Right.
Which is why California grows such better marijuana than Canada outdoors, because California, they start growing in January, and actually California has 2 harvests in many places. First harvest is mid-July, and then the second harvest happens towards the end of October, mid-October, in like the classic growing regions of California. So, yeah, they're going to grow better weed in southern climes, that's for sure.
I think we got to stay on this monumental move in gold here.
Well, let's pull up a chart,
Okay,
Ed.
let's do it.
Let's have a chart.
This is the big ETF, which tracks gold.
Okay.
And okay, wait a minute. No, that's not it.
The big ETF that tracks gold.
Survey says, and here it is. There it is. That's now that. So let's put up. That's a 5-day chart. Let's go to a 3-month. That clearly shows you that we've taken out. Let's see. A month. There was a high a month ago. We've taken out that high. Okay. There we go. Keep it. Okay, so look, that was the previous high, and that was the red candle, and it obviously corrected. But this gap is intact, which is very powerful. Now we're up through that high.
So are you suggesting that it's going to keep on running?
It's going a lot higher. This thing is just, it's got to go at least $100 just to get people excited. It's. I believe we're going to see a move probably a move that hard to believe.
What number?
You know, they keep printing money. They're you know, all the money now is starting to earn negative rates. I think the banker, everybody loves this because who loses with negative interest rates? The public. And that's what the establishment likes. They like sticking it to the public, and here they found a way.
Yeah.
You pay us to hold your stupid money that we've given you.
Yeah, right. This'll teach you to invest in us.
Yeah,
This'll teach
we'll
you.
show you.
Yeah.
So I think gold, and the big guys like Sprott and McEwen and Dalio, and there's a few others, and I keep reading these articles, and it broke out of a 7-year base.
Right. There's a famous economist, Carmen, what's her last name, who coined a term for the treatment of the public's trust by government. She called it financial repression.
Yeah.
So financial repression is an interesting concept.
Sure.
You know, the idea that the government uses the investing public and the pensioners and everybody as a way to eliminate debt, essentially, by basically taking the whole debt curve and the risk-reward scenario for borrowing down to a flat line, and that way it just kind of makes it go away.
Does anybody know if anybody knows what's going on with flour, I wouldn't mind...
FLWR.
FLWR, it's down here. I'll show you on the chart, which...
FLWR is taking a thumping at this moment, just
down
as the market...
75 cents.
Down 75 cents on the day. And why is that, Ed? Is there any news?
I don't know, but there's either news coming, or somebody knows something we don't know, or they've announced something that isn't yet.
Okay, the last news is that they received an outdoor and greenhouse cultivation license.
And they're raising $125 million, and somebody suggested that maybe raising money right now in the marijuana space is not as easy as it used to be.
So you'd think this would give them a lift in the opposite direction?
Well, look, the stock was $6.15 a week ago, and here it is at $4. That's a big drop. These things just don't drop daily unless there's something unusual, like we saw with Trust. I don't know what's going on here. I have no idea. I know I've smoked some of their product, and it's pretty good. I'll say that.
Right. Huh. Well, I wonder what's going on there.
Well, we're going to probably read about it tomorrow in the paper.
Yeah.
Is it just people are selling their shares so that they can participate in the new financing and pick up a warrant or something like that?
Well, it must be some of that, or it could be maybe the announcement of the financing has given the investors in the financing the ability to cover a short position.
Look, there's something going on here. This thing, and I'm tempted to buy it here, but I'm just I'd like to know.
I want to see you buy it. I want to see what happens to you. Can you buy some, please? It's got 2 minutes, Ed. 2 minutes to buy Flower Corporation.
No, don't. No, we got 1 minute.
1 minute. Oh,
I'm not going to buy it. You know why?
Because it's going down?
Well, I'd like to buy it, but
you don't want to catch a falling knife?
If it drops sharply on Monday, then I'll buy it for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no matter what.
Unless there's some news out that, but yeah, because if it's gaps from here, this is oversold. This thing is now, the RSI looks like it's at 22. 22, skidoo.
22. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to get Flower Control Room. We want Flower Corporation in here next week to ask them what the hell. Actually, see if we can get them in here tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. Still a working day.
Is it Good Friday?
No.
Bad
It's not
Friday.
a bad Friday.
Not bad.
It's just a normal Friday. Just another manic Friday.
We've been traveling around a lot on shows going on location.
Yeah, we got lots more shows on location coming up. Like, let's see, we were going to do one from Toronto Island, possibly next week. That would be interesting. Live from Toronto Island. It's the Ed and Jim thing. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. It'd be a picnic. We'll call it the Ed and Jim's Teddy Bear Picnic.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that there?
King James
Lord God,
and
you?
King Edward and St. James.
Jim isn't here. Jim isn't here Tuesday? Anyways, let's take a quick look at what's going on in the control room. Cut to that camera, please, will ya?
Will ya?
Wave everybody in the control room. What? Oh, they took. Oh, no. Anyway, so there's no connectivity to the camera in the control room today, they're saying.
They call it the control room. We'll come to you.
All right, bring the control room out here. Come on, control room. Big round of applause for Suzanne Garcia, Fraser Toms, and Donald Corkery. Yay! Where's Alex Roberts? What's that little shy motherfucker doing in the...
We'd like you to do
There he comes. There he goes. Running.
We'd like it in streak mode.
Yeah.
Anyways,
there's our lovely Thursday show. Give a round of applause to our beautiful control room crew, and round of applause for Wayne Thompson over there, IR, fireman extraordinaire, chief hatchet man.
Hatchet man.
Yeah, we have a large crew that makes us look good, and it's just certainly not Ed and I pulling this together. So don't forget to touch that bell in the upper right-hand corner if you want to see our crazy location shoots coming up all throughout next week. And other than that, we'll see you guys tomorrow.